Good morning, everybody. Now, as you know, there is a global war on farming going on, which is absolutely insane, and it's been led by the World Economic Forum and certain people associated with globalist organizations, particularly Agenda 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We know that in the Netherlands, the former government that's just been deposed, thankfully, wanted to close down 3,000 plus farms in the Netherlands and appropriate their land. That wasn't because they really cared about farming or the net zero. It's because they wanted the land to build lots and lots of horrible, brutal tower blocks on the land for this big three cities project that they've got going on, where the whole of the country, the Netherlands, will be just turned into an urban wasteland. Farmers have been pushing back on that, and they are heroes both in their own country and in the world. That's not the only thing. In Ireland, the government wants to cull 200,000 cows because it says that the methane that they release is bad for global warming or climate change or whatever it's called this year. And so farmers are at their wits' end in Ireland, because if they do this, they're going to cull a whole load of cattle. A lot of farmers, they're just not going to have their herds. They're just going to completely obliterate the herds of many, many farmers in Ireland. And then, if you're a cattle farmer or a dairy farmer, well, you just don't have any cows. You're out of business. You're gone. Your business is gone. So that's Ireland. But something else has happened that goes above and beyond the insanity of what's happening in the Netherlands and Ireland. 13 countries have come together, it's being reported, and have made a Methane Pact. So this is some kind of pact that is led by the United States and Spain, Argentina, Brazil, and a number of other countries. I'll read them out here. I'll read them out in a minute. But what they've done essentially is they've had a meeting, and the ministers of environment or agriculture or energy, climate, whatever they're called in the various countries, have come together, and they've agreed to take methane reducing measures in the agriculture sector. So the kind of thinking that goes behind this is something I came across in the London Assembly when I was a member there. We all know that there's this insane push for net zero in terms of carbon dioxide, and that's mainly focused on transport. But the people there who are the most enthusiastic zealots of net zero said it's not just transport we have to think about, it's also construction and agriculture. Those are the three sectors where there's release of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, of which methane is one. There's no question methane is a greenhouse gas. It absorbs infrared radiation, and it to some extent may have an impact in the atmosphere. Only a very small amount, obviously, because there's only really a small amount of methane, even compared to carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is only approximately 420 now parts per million. Methane is way, way less than that. So, there's only a tiny amount of it in the atmosphere. And obviously, if you light a match to where there's some methane, it will immediately react with oxygen and create water vapor and carbon dioxide. But even if you don't, even if it's just in the atmosphere itself, it slowly reacts with oxygen and produces carbon dioxide and water vapor. So methane doesn't persist in the atmosphere for years and years and years. It will slowly react as the molecules collide with each other in the atmosphere. So that's it. And as I said, it turns into water and carbon dioxide, which so water. There's lots of water vapor in the atmosphere, and that's the biggest greenhouse gas. So if you actually know real science, water vapor has much more of an effect on temperatures and global temperatures than carbon dioxide does. But there we go. No one would admit that because people are just getting nonsensical pop science from the mainstream media channels. But anyway, back to this Methane Pact. So the countries involved here are United States, Argentina, Australia, Brazil. I very much doubt that Bolsonaro would have taken Brazil in, but with their new president, Lula, he's doing all of this kind of nonsense, this globalist nonsense. Burkina Faso, no, they might have pulled out actually because they've just had a coup. We'll see. But Chile, Czech Republic, Ecuador, Germany, Panama, Peru, and Spain. So countries all over the world are involved in this Methane Pact, and what they say they want to do is reduce methane emissions from the agriculture sector. So they will need to change how farming is done to make it more sustainable. So essentially what this means is they don't give any actual concrete plans in what they're going to do, but we know what they're going to do. They're going to try to get rid of cows. They will exterminate, cull all the cows like they're trying to do in Ireland. They will appropriate farms like they're trying to do in the Netherlands and stop farmers from farming. This is it. So there will be fewer farms, and there will be less food, and there will be less meat. And then they talk about new technologies. Well, these new technologies are absolutely horrific. They're inhuman. You know, getting people to eat insects and stuff, cricket farms, insect farms, mealworms. The thought is absolutely horrendous. And even worse than this is this lab-grown meat, this Franken meat that you have Bill Gates and other people looking at and investing in at the moment. This is not the right future for the world and for humanity. But you have here 13 nations signing, I don't think it's a legally binding treaty, but an agreement, a pact to start working on this. And not that they haven't been working on this kind of thing already in many, many places in the world. As I said, you know, the Netherlands and Ireland are not part of this, but they're doing horrendous things to attack and appropriate farmers' land and stop them from farming and doing what their families have been doing for generations. This is a terrible, terrible attack on farming and agriculture and food and humanity in general. All I can do is raise awareness of this. You know, my country, the United Kingdom, is not in this pact, fortunately. But, you know, they're still doing ridiculous things like rewilding is the phrase that's used a lot here by the government in this country. They want to pay farmers not to farm and rewild their land and give it back over to nature. But we need food. You know, I mean, I totally agree with, you know, farming responsibly and, you know, leaving land fallow, crop rotation, these kind of things, which obviously are going to make things far, far better and sometimes not done. So we need to get back to those good things. But just stopping farming and taking farmers' land and killing their cattle and killing their chickens and killing their sheep is not going to do anything productive. It's not going to do any good for anyone, anywhere in the world. It's just absolute nonsense, and it is very, very destructive. It's worth noting here, finally, that the US representative was John Kerry, who, I think he was in the Obama administration, wasn't he? And, oh no, I'm wrong about that. He was, yeah, he's a prime advocate of all this climate alarmism and net zero and sustainability goals and all of these kind of things. So, anything that he's involved in, I would stay and steer well clear of, as he tells everybody else to eat bugs while he goes around himself flying around the world on a private jet. This is the hypocrisy of a lot of these climate alarmists. So that is one of the latest things that's going on. It's just another open front in the war on ordinary people. So, they're trying to say we have to cut carbon dioxide emissions. In the Netherlands, it's about cutting nitrogen oxide emissions. And then here you've got 13 nations on top of Ireland talking about cutting methane emissions. And none of these things are going to do any good whatsoever. And the end result of this will be a famine. And United Nations people are talking about a coming famine. They have been for a year or so. They tell you what in advance, what they think is going to happen or what they plan to happen. So this needs to be stopped, and the nations involved need to elect better people to govern them who are going to look after our farmers and our agriculture sector and maintain farmers' farms and their cattle herds. And obviously make animal welfare better. When you talk about chickens, for example, battery caged chickens is an appalling thing. It's what they do in the United States sometimes. They have regulations where all the chickens need to be inside in these horrible little cages. This is absolutely horrible. Chickens should be free range. Absolutely, I do agree with that. But that's going the other way, making farming better. This is actually what they're proposing here, is something that's going to destroy farming and agriculture in totality. And if that happens, well, no farmers, no food. It's just stupid. So let's elect people into governments who are going to look after our farmers, our agriculture, and make sure that people have enough food to eat. It's just basics, common sense, isn't it?